So as Odysseus finishes off Troy with the classic Trojan horse, they began their journey back home. His entire fleet of ships set sail, but then they ran into a thick and dense fog, losing each other and getting the leader of the army stuck on one ship that was lost at sea with only about 20 people on board, and barely any food and barely any fresh water. But thanks to the help from Poseidon, a god of the sea in Greek mythology, their ship is carried to the island of the Cyclops, a type of monster resembling a giant man with only a single eye. After arriving, Odysseus takes a half dozen of his best men into the cave, just a few 100 feet in front of them, just to find tons of cheese that their starving bodies scarf up in just minutes, until the Cyclops comes back home. When the Cyclops comes back, he comes back with a large herd of sheep that startle the men, but make them go into their battle stances instead of scaring them. And as the Cyclops comes in, he acts as a shepherd that closes up the cave with a large boulder as soon as everything is inside. After closing up the only exit, the men plead if they could have a feast with him and make deals with the Cyclops to get out, but he doesn't follow rules or make deals with intruders. So he eats one of them because he was in disagreement with Odysseus' ideas. After he had threatened them enough by eating one of them, they gift him a large portion of wine and tell him a story, so he goes to sleep. While he sleeps, they decide to try to kill him, but the door they couldn't open was still closed, so they needed the Cyclops to open it. So they wake him up by stabbing him in the eye to make him go open it. After he opens the door, all the herd of sheep run out, and they decide to act as sheep and crawl underneath him so he doesn't pick them up. But this only worked for half of them, as 2 of them got eaten by him because they were caught. After Odysseus and his men quickly sail away from the island of the Cyclops, they get caught in a storm that take them to the land of the dead, where they retrieve a magical item that helped him after he went to the land of the dead. When he and his crew got caught by the Skaya, a large tentacle monster resembling an octopus with a large mouth that acted like a whirlpool, that killed and ate some of his men. After the Skaya and Cyclops demolished his best men, Odysseus felt defeated and just let the ocean take him. And then eventually his ship gets eaten by the Skaya again, with his crew dying in the process. But he survived by holding onto a tree on an island. He floats back to Ithaca, his home, on a piece of driftwood, where everything has been taken over by raiders that ransacked his kingdom. He couldn't fight back, because now he had been transformed into an old man that had no strength, until he meets up with his son, who he hasn't seen in over 20 years. His son being only 20 years old right now, he is still very strong and very smart. But you can't take on 50 men all by yourself. So they decide to not take them all on at once and decide to hold an election for the new king. To elect a new leader, they decide to place axes with tiny holes on the handle, and they decide to place a dozen axes and put them into the ground, as the runner-ups have to shoot a bow, or have to shoot an arrow through all of those circles, and then whoever can do that perfectly without getting the arrow stuck or anything will be king. And so all of the other raiders try, but they all fail. And then Odysseus, even in his old age, he still manages to get through there, like shoot the arrow through, and is now crowned king. But the raiders don't accept that. So they start fighting with him and his son, and those two have been restored back to their strength and their age, and now fight back with perfect accuracy and are able to kill every raider as much as they can, And then after the raiders are done, they are now free to rule their old kingdom that they have ruled over for a long time.